New year, new episode. For Good Game Edmonton, I'm your host, Corey Sellercast Seller. On the show, we explore the culture of gaming and esports in the City of Champions. Along the way, we gather insights from subject matter experts from across various sectors from the Edmonton region and afar. On this episode, I'm pleased to welcome back Travis Bouchard from episode 5. Travis is the Esports Director at Vimy Ridge Academy in Edmonton. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me again, Travis. It's super great to have you back on the show, and different well, in person. We did virtual last time.
I was in my chair last time. This is much more comfortable.
This is way more comfortable. Okay,
yeah.
well.
We get to play games today. So
we get to play games. We get to play Mario Kart, so I'm excited. So let's get going. You somehow managed player 1, so.
I got the Big Brother controller.
Big Brother controller, here we go. Let's do. Oh no.
The Nintendo Switch
we
thing.
We planned this so good.
B and A. We didn't choose mushroom because we knew it a little bit of a challenge.
No, I love it. I love it.
So it'll be, if we're talking here and maybe I don't get all my details right, it's because I'm really focusing on making sure I
That's fair. I feel like I wasn't as focused last time, so yeah. And I picked Bowser to intimidate you.
Yeah, it's working.
Woo! Okay, I didn't get the spurt. But yeah, let's start off with some updates since we last chatted. What's new with you? What's been happening with Vimy Esports? And what's 2025 looking like? That was a 3-parter, by the way.
Yeah, there's something going on with the controls.
No!
Yeah, someone has a different control scheme than I do. So Vimy Esports, now we're in our 3rd year. We're just recruiting for our 4th year.
Yeah.
Just doing the Academy Esports thing. It's going well. Like I said, happy to say that we're in our 3rd year here. It feels like it's been 30 seconds, but next year is our 4th year. And,
oh, nice.
We have 31 student athletes, started with 14 brave, courageous families.
Love it.
To start our program, but happy to say, we're up to 31 kids now. So continuing to grow.
And what's been the latest in terms of feedback, both from the athletes as well as the parents?
Yeah. Feedback generally positive, right? I think one of the things that people kind of enjoy about our program is that we treat them like athletes, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you first start out, people might think that it's just sitting around playing video games like we're doing right now. But there's a lot of training that goes involved. People would be surprised to hear that we do, some. For our older student athletes, we get into the weight room just like every other athlete at our school, right?
Right.
We're able to, the first couple years were a little more difficult to find competition, which I'm sure we're going to get to later.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I'm in first right now.
How? What? Wait, what? Oh my God.
I had to say something. I honestly don't know what's going on with this scheme here. But anyways, we were, competition was a little difficult to get the first couple years. But over the last few years, we've increased the amount of competition we're able to do. We were able to have our first in-person competition last May, which was an awesome experience and a learning experience, like, of course, the first-time thing would be. Mm-hmm. Competition keeps ramping up, and we're just about to get into just to make things super easy on me, recruiting season happens to coincide with the major competition season. So
okay, nice.
Such is life as an esports director.
Yeah. No, awesome.
Yeah.
I guess one other thing I wanted to find out, I know I've seen on my LinkedIn feed, you probably have seen it as well on your other feeds and stuff, but not to go into a full 2024 Unwrapped kind of thing, but I'm curious, was any other significant milestones to kind of highlight before really diving deep into 2025. Wow, I landed in 8th place.
I honestly don't know what the control. I did pretty well for somebody who didn't know what the control settings were.
Jesus.
So some milestones for us. We were able to. Our junior highs took home. Junior highs and high school for Rocket League were qualified for nationals this year, which is a big deal for us through Esports Canada.
Nice.
So that was solid for us. We took home the top junior high Rocket League team at the Alberta Esports Championship in May of last year. So those are some big competition level, achievements. But I think that with us, it's less on the competitive side and more, how we built like a community in a room and kind of, each individual's development is more important. It's easy to get lost in the banners and things like that for sure. But and those things are less tangible. I can't tell you that this person is 10% better at the game, but you can see it in the room and you can see that there's a bunch of kids who come to a pretty comfortable, safe space in our room, and that's kind of the most important thing for sure.
Yeah. No, you mentioned the Alberta Esports Championship. Now, as I understand it, and correct me, you're on the AESA academic subcommittee.
I am.
You're the co-chair,
vice chair.
Vice chair. Okay, there.
I don't want to get the wrong name again.
Sorry. No, vice chair. Vice chair. But before we get into that, though, the Alberta Esports Championship, from I understand it is happening again. We're shooting for 2025 to following 2024 back in May down in Lethbridge. From your perspectives, talk about that particular experience and really the importance of the Alberta Esports Championship going forward.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes it can feel like esports is a little Wild West still, and we will talk about Alberta Scholastic Esports League and things like that. But having a live event. And there's a bunch of other things that are happening right now that add legitimacy to esports. I think having an in-person event like the Alberta Esports Championship that had, from what I understand, like 200 competitors plus from all over Alberta, a big financial impact to Lethbridge for being there. It adds legitimacy to what we're doing, right? Eventually the Alberta Esports Championship, and it already kind of feels this way, feels like your provincial championship for all of those games. And perhaps that's the way that it'll hopefully get, that it'll be the provincial championship that culminates the entire year. So just being able to have that, able to have like a collaboration space where, yes, I talk to, as part of being Alberta Scholastic Esports League, yes, I talk to people from Fort McMurray and I talk to people from Grand Prairie, but there's something about being in the same room with people and, seeing their jerseys and, seeing how their team plays, how their coaches interact, having some time to talk to the coaches in person, that stuff's really valuable, right? So it was something that the Scholastic subcommittee, we knew that soon as we formed, that was one of the major things we had to get going, and it was Jesse and the people in Lethbridge. They put in so much time and effort to make that happen, and so we knew we needed to get started on that as soon as possible. So it was definitely one of the priorities when we got started.
Nice. So then I'm curious, it is for sure, obviously, going into 2025, it will be happening again for a second year. But, what would you say the future holds for the Esports Championship going forward, beyond 2025?
Yeah, so we've definitely had those conversations. The Lethbridge one was amazing. And to a lot of times going from zero to just getting something off the ground, that's the biggest gap that you have to do, right? So now we get to take, follow in the footsteps that they've made, and hopefully iterate upon it, right? And so in talking in years going forward, like we had just talked about, hopefully this becomes the provincial championship, gets bigger in bigger spaces. We can start adding some, in Lethbridge there was I don't want to say a farmer's market, but there was another, there were vendors, but they were kind of less associated with esports, right? So
Yeah.
maybe as we start building this, it can be more of a esports specific vendors slash,
Right.
you can have booths for academies such as myself
Yeah.
or other places like that. And then just, making it bigger and better, making it, eventually if we get to the point where, like right now or last year it was whoever wanted to sign up. You were a school in Alberta who did esports, you could come. And maybe eventually it gets to the point where you have to qualify through your leagues before you can go to that. So it's you're there based on merit, right? Because we may have to get to that point, because if we had, 450 people who signed up last year, they might not have been able to accommodate it, right? So it's a lot of fun thinking about, but then it's also one of those things where you get a little bit of anxiety, be like, as you're growing, you have to plan for the growth, right?
Yeah.
So, and then heaven forbid it slows down one year. And
No.
No.
We're not going to talk about that. It's obviously important to think about nonetheless. But I'm curious then. So like you went in Edmonton, you had gone to the Alberta Esports Expo.
Yep. February of 2023.
Yes. Yeah. 2023.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So would you say, is this sort of an evolution of that, or is it more separate? Like that was something different that, AESA had worked on, and obviously it was only kind of a one-time deal, it felt, but is this, would you say, could more of an evolution of that going forward to being in terms of sustainability and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because obviously ASL currently is a part of AESA, so Alberta Scholastic Esports League is a part of the Alberta Esports Association right now. So definitely working a lot in collaboration with them.
Right.
I think that the Alberta Esports Expo there was definitely a Scholastic portion to it. It was more the university, those sorts of levels of players, and as well they had Smash tournaments for anyone, any age or whatever, right? So it was a more umbrella esports in Alberta, but I foresee that there could be a possibility where maybe it's a kind of a hybrid thing where there's the Alberta Esports Championship going on, and then there's an expo. Maybe that's what we talked about with having vendors and things like that. It could be a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
I would be very happy if we had enough desire in this province to do both of those events. Would be nice.
Totally.
It'd be nice to be able to reach a different audience. The general esports community versus just the Scholastic.
Yeah.
So that would be something. So, but we'll always be working in collaboration with them. Anything that happens between the two groups, there'll be collaboration.
Absolutely.
I foresee in the future for sure.
Totally. No, 100%. I don't mean to pry, but since we did, talk about it happening again in 2025.
Yes.
It's not happening in Lethbridge. Any update on?
Yeah.
It's not Lethbridge, but any thoughts you can share in terms of where we might see it?
I guess I could confirm it does not look like it's going to be in Lethbridge this year.
So not Lethbridge. Not Lethbridge.
So, like I said, when we started the Alberta Scholastic Esports League, when we started that subcommittee to run that, we knew that it was a priority to make sure that we had that event again. It was such a great thing, and it really moved forward the Scholastic Esports message.
Yeah.
And so Shadi Hanna, who's the chair of Alberta Scholastic Esports League, he one of his first things was to create a request for proposal, which was done with a lot of help from the community. Shadi's an unbelievable administrator, and he has a lot of passion for esports and specifically Scholastic Esports in Alberta. But even Shadi needs some help from lawyers and things like that to make sure that everything is correct. So he got a lot of assistance to make the request for proposal happen, and that ended. He's going to watch this and he's going to be like, "That's the wrong date." But
he was supposed to be on this episode, for the record. I want to set that straight. Fortunately, he wasn't able to make it, but we will be having him on in the future down the road for sure. Yeah.
So beginning of December, that closed, and I'm very happy to say that we had several candidates, several proposals that we were looking at And we're actually in the process now where we have a short list of candidates, and we're going to go just tour facilities, see what
Totally.
talk to the people who are interested in running the event, and we'll see where we're going to go. But quite confident that we're going to find a home for the Alberta Esports Championship in 2025. So
not in Lethbridge.
Not in Lethbridge. And not for any reason besides they did it last year, and they put a lot of their effort in, and it's somebody else's turn, right? And you would hope that there's 6 zones. I hope there's 6. There's 6 zones in Alberta here, and you would hope that this is the kind of thing where zones are cycled through, right? So I'm trying to think of the 3 without giving away too much. If there's anyone in the Lethbridge zone this year, I don't believe that there is. I believe that it's 3 separate zones that are this year's. So like I said, the only reason it's moving away from Lethbridge is because they've already given enough effort. It's time for somebody else to step up. And hopefully, every 6 years it's in your zone, right? Because there's going to be some times when it's in the northeast part of the province, and you're from the southwest, and that's a bit of travel, right? So if it could be in Red Deer, in that central area every year, and that would make travel easy for everybody, right? But,
Is that a hint?
It's not a hint.
No? Okay. Not in Lethbridge. Got it. Okay,
Yes.
well, looking forward to seeing the announcement for 2025 host city for the Alberta Esports Championship. Of course, shout out to everyone in Lethbridge who is behind the inaugural Alberta Esports Championship in 2024, especially Jesse, who we had on the show earlier on last year as well. So that was awesome. I'd say we're certainly onto something. And, considering that this is sort of outside of I feel everyone's day job. Like this is fantastic, and it's nice to see a committee in this sense that's dedicated to making this happen and really growing the space in this way on the Scholastic side. So bravo.
There's most people that are doing this, like you said, have day jobs. They're teachers, they're IT professionals. I run my academy. They're doing other things. So anything outside of this, running this event. We're not getting any extra pay for that. No one is. So the amount of volunteer hours that go into that, and like being in Lethbridge last year and seeing it is like, it's insane how much effort goes into it, right? So I guess we could say just, hug your esports professional, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Well, honestly, I think...
you want to do another one?
I need to do another round because 8th place I'm not satisfied with.
I would like to, if I could double check maybe the settings, not to be that guy.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm just like, how do I drive?
Oh, do we need to end this?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Because this is the second race.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to press start once we go.
Okay.
Okay.
You're going to be that guy.
I am going to be that guy.
Is it the one on the top? We're troubleshooting on the fly. This is basically what life of an AV professional is like.
And then I started it without notifying you, which is...
Yeah. And somehow...
Oh, you know what? It automatically goes. No. I am completely lost at the settings right now.
Me too, because I'm also...
So people are going to say, this guy's an esports professional? And he can't figure out his Mario Kart settings? Yeah.
No comment. I don't have anything.
Okay. I think maybe I got it.
Okay.
Now you're in trouble.
Damn it. That's the most PG reaction I can give. So, like obviously going back to the Alberta Esports Championship, we have that. It's happening. It's being worked on for its 2nd year. With regards, and obviously to the best of your knowledge, of course, respectfully, as the vice chair. I got that right?
You did get that
right. Okay. So many different titles.
I'm also the co-representative for Alberta for Esports Canada too, if you want to remember that one too.
We can talk about that too.
That one's a tough one.
Okay. As far as the subcommittee goes, specifically with under AESA for for just Scholastic Esports, but specifically with the Esports Championship as well. I'm curious, like, why, from your standpoint, why a subcommittee? How is it working essentially?
Yeah, so I'll give you like a brief history
Sure.
of the subcommittee, right? So once again, Shadi very much recognized that we needed to have, he was running Scholastic Esports for AESA, but realized that we needed, or it would be valuable to have a subcommittee of educators in Alberta. So in May, he put out a proposal to run a subcommittee.
Okay.
And so what that subcommittee consists of is 3 executive members. So Shadi is the chair, I'm the vice chair, and we have, I believe, your secretary of that, it ends up being an executive member.
Yeah.
And then we have reps from each zone. So all of the Alberta learning zones have a representative that are, responsible for the esports going on in their zone. And as well, we have advisors from post-secondary and from like technology, IT people from Alberta that help run that committee. So we run town halls for any educator every month or so, or every couple months. We'll run a town hall, and that's just to let people know, okay, this is the event that's coming up and things like that.
Yeah.
You were second. I mean, second by a long shot, but you were second. Anyways, and the idea behind the whole subcommittee was we need to get an interscholastic league going on. We may have taken some inspiration from our friends in Manitoba and Ontario who are a little bit further ahead on us.
Right.
So to run an interscholastic league, to run our own thing. We found that last year, so in running leagues through other providers, the most fun that we had was when Alberta teams played against each other, right? And so we'd like to run our own thing, kind of be in control of it. Once again, if we talk about feeding into the Alberta Esports Championship, like this will be a way to do it. So since I believe the committee was formed in June of 2024, we have started the Alberta Scholastic Esports League, and that is we were going to run leagues for Rocket League and Valorant, and we also run in-person Smash Bros events. That's what we started with those 3 games.
I apologize, we're not playing Rocket League. We were going to play that, but then I had just downloaded it over the holidays. Felt very premature to bring that.
It's fun because if I don't play well in this, people are like, whatever, it's Mario Kart. It's not even one of the games. If I don't play well in Rocket League, it's like, well, that's one of the games that, I coach and all that kind of stuff. So
we could have played NHL.
Yeah, or something like that.
Could have brought that.
Yeah. So anyways, we run those leagues. So we ran our first Rocket League tournament, which was the feeder into nationals, which just to give you an idea of some of the growth, we ran a Rocket League tournament in 2023 or the beginning of 2024. We ran a Rocket League tournament, and I believe we ended up with 4 teams that signed up for that, using the same marketing or promotional channels that we did for that. We ran the tournament this November, and we had 20 teams, and so it just blew up, kind of thing. And we were able to send, I believe, 10 teams. We sent 4 junior high and 6 high school, or the opposite, one of those 2, to nationals. And Alberta did unbelievable in Rocket League and nationals. I believe we came in the top 8 of the high school. I believe 4 or 5 teams were Alberta, including the winning team and the second place team. So Alberta is in a good spot when it comes to that. And the idea behind the subcommittee is build those leagues, build the interscholastic competition, build out resources for coaches, places for coaches to collaborate, those sorts of things, so that we can hopefully continue to be very strong when it comes to esports. We also Alberta had the Valorant champions last year for Play Versus were from Lethbridge, so
Okay.
in Alberta.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were actually able to win another competition and win scholarships for their schools.
Nice.
And so Alberta is in definitely a good spot, but we
Yeah.
want to kind of take the momentum that's been happening and make sure that we're making it continue, right?
Yeah. So, to predict the next few years of the Scholastic League, the Alberta Scholastic Esports League,
There
sorry.
you go.
Where would you say this is headed? Just from within the league itself,
Yeah.
not kind of putting aside the Esports Championship, or if that's like you said, kind of maybe tied to it. But how do you see it thriving in the community, going forward in the next few years?
Yeah. So this year, what we call this year a pilot year, right?
Right.
So we didn't want to. Maybe I was one of the voices that was very strong in this way, that I didn't want to bite off more than we could chew.
Yeah.
You want to have a successful first year.
Yeah.
If that's a successful pared down year, then that's still viewed as a success, rather than trying to do all these things, start them from scratch, and have it be kind of not a success. That's not going to look as good, right? So you want to build momentum, right? So this year, we do the Smash Bros tournaments. I believe we have a winter and a spring one. So there is a spring one happening during teacher convention, depending on the zone. So those will be a local one. And then we had the Rocket League tournament, and then we're going to have Rocket League and Valorant leagues. The idea moving forward, and those will feed into the Alberta Esports Championship, but that's still going to be like an open championship and things like that.
Yeah.
I believe the idea would be that those are going to expand into set leagues that feed into the Alberta Championship as a provincials. That's what we would like to see happen. I can see that happening in the future for sure. And just expanding those leagues and making it more, making them more like seasons, like how the junior high will have a basketball season and a volleyball season and stuff like that.
Yep.
Having more of a season when it comes to Valorant and Rocket League, things like that, expanding on those. The growth is, we don't have to, we shouldn't rely on it and make sure and say that's just going to happen without our help.
Yeah.
But we should expect that we're going to get more and more teams as we go here. So more competitive seasons, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Is there the opportunity for more games to join the mix? Overwatch. Selfishly, Overwatch is one of the games that's played at Vimy, and they don't get as much love when it comes to the competition. So, could Overwatch be something that's added in future years? That might be an opportunity, or whatever other game comes up. That Marvel Rivals that just came out.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the new esport? We don't know. So, definitely want to make things bigger and better, make them more standardized for sure.
Yeah.
But also be open and agile enough to adjust with the times, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we do. To bring it back to Vimy, is we want to be able to have esports athletes that are able to train, learn new things, because you never know. Like Valorant is huge; it's the biggest thing right now. In 5 years, it could be not. So we gotta make sure that we're stay agile. Build momentum as we go.
I'm curious. You talk about adding new games. Whether I'm more so on the bio side because I love playing NHL, hockey. I've dabbled with Madden a little bit here and there. Curious with those, like, are those sort of on Vimy's radar as well, or is it more so kind of sticking to a certain aspect?
Yeah, the way that we choose our games.
Yeah.
We listen to what the kids what they play and what we've seen has been popular.
Yeah. We
also generally will take what we call tier 1 titles.
Okay.
And so the way that we consider a game tier 1 is if there's scholarships available, like varsity teams for those. If we check in with some of the major varsity programs across Canada. So your St. Clair's, your Keanos, people who actually have scholarships for players. What teams are they running, right?
Yeah.
And so, a great example of this is Fortnite. A lot of our kids come in and they want to play Fortnite.
Yeah.
We found that there's very little scholarships involved with that, right? In Canada at the very least. So that is one of the reasons why Fortnite is not one of the games that we play currently. That could change next year. You never know, right? So that's why we choose that. And we try to keep in touch with people and like look on, different varsity websites and see what is going on.
Yeah.
For sure. And kind of what we tell our kids is if you love Fortnite, we want you to still have that passion. If you choose Valorant or Overwatch, hopefully you're learning something in that other FPS that you can take to that game, right?
Right.
Or you're learning something in Overwatch and Valorant for, I'm trying to think of the game that Valve is making. Deadlock is, a game that they're making, or Marvel Rivals. That might be the next big thing. So hopefully you've learned a few skills. If it's something about, dive composition or brawl composition in Overwatch, or using the environment, just getting out of line of sight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're learning that in that game. Can you take it to Deadlock when that becomes the big thing, right? Because it's not like hockey or baseball, where hockey should be relatively hockey for the next 100 years, right?
Yeah.
The next big esport could be coming next week, and the game that you love might not be the game that you can get your scholarship for, or you might be a professional at, right? So the other end of the tier one is the professional, like our hockey programs and baseball and lacrosse at Vimy. We don't cater to just the kid who wants to be a pro, because the chances of that are, astronomical. We also want to have this space where they can develop those skills, right? So if there's someone who's eventually going to be a pro, we want them to come through our program, right? So and be able to have an environment where they can develop, right?
No, totally. Yeah, no, it's interesting because you talk about on the Scholastic side wanting to have those seasons and stuff, and then you kind of build it up and you kind of create those levels like traditional sports where you have the Scholastic and then you get to collegiate. I'm curious, like, what's been your experience of what you've been seeing from your standpoint when it comes to collegiate esports in Alberta? Like, do you think that the next step would be to set up an Alberta Collegiate Esports League so that it kind of goes alongside the Scholastic League?
That's, once again, a very interesting question. I would not consider myself an expert in the collegiate area for sure. But from an outsider perspective, hopefully someone who's, connecting with those people and, helping them perhaps have some student athletes of the future kind of thing. I do see it growing in Alberta. I think one of the major things with collegiate esports is the difference between varsity and club. So varsity meaning they get scholarships, they get paid, whatever, they get their tuition and things like that paid for, or at least partially paid for, to go to their schools to perform as an esports athlete, versus club, where they go to the school, whatever way they go to the school, and they just represent their school through club play. And so currently, there's very few varsity across Canada. We're seeing more and more of them develop, right? That's where I'm seeing the growth, is if I hear now that, I don't want to use specific schools because it feels like I might be calling them out for not having a club. But perhaps there's a big university in Edmonton who has club like right now. When you see them get to a varsity level, then maybe we're understanding that, it's starting to grow a little bit more. There's more opportunities for more athletes, which would mean, maybe there's more opportunity for our junior high and high school people to build up to a level where they can get some of their education paid for, right?
Right.
As far as the Canadian landscape, what I try to keep my eye on is how many more varsity programs are we getting, right? So that's kind of a good watermark of the way things are going. As far as creating a league, a collegiate league, they kind of have their needs serviced right now by NACE and things like that already exist. And that has them play against other high-level collegiate teams across North America. And should we get to the point where, let's say we have 10 varsity university esports programs right now in Canada, should we get to the point where we have 100 or 200 of them, then maybe we're expanding to our own Canadian league. But right now, I believe that their needs are being serviced by the people in the space right now. Cool. That's, once again, outsider's perspective a little bit.
No, I mean, I figured I'd ask because, you're sort of moving ahead with, this new established Scholastic League. You have a subcommittee that's dedicated to, ensuring that it has what it needs to succeed in this pilot year. So yeah, I figured I'd ask.
Yeah.
So nevertheless, because, darn.
Did you mess up your start?
Yep. See, I tend to do that. It's not great. I feel like I'm in the Haunted Mansion.
I think that's the point.
Okay.
I think it might actually be called the Haunted Mansion.
You think I'd know this?
I've never played those games. Big Nintendo guy as far as I'm showing my age here. Big Nintendo guy as far as like Super Nintendo being my favorite console of all time.
Yeah.
But there's certain games that I just never touched. And this one, people might turn off the podcast right now because of this, but like never been a big Pokemon guy. And so like my kids are into it now, and they're like certain games I can help them out with. And then they ask me questions about Pokemon. I'm like, I have no idea. So
I'm kind of in the same boat.
You can only have so many passions, right?
I couldn't catch them all. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was curious about something earlier on. And actually, I'm drawing a blank whether or not it was on camera or off camera. But you mentioned Esports Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I believe are you currently involved at all in some capacity with Esports Canada?
So Esports Canada has Esports Canada EDU. So they spread out like there's Esports Canada. They have a collegiate section and they have an EDU, which is like your elementary, junior high, high school areas.
Yeah.
And I'm on I'm the co-representative for Alberta.
Okay.
When it comes to that, so they run nationals for Rocket League. And things like that. There's hopefully there's talk of expanding that to some different titles for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do things across Canada. There's a Minecraft competition.
Okay.
That they do.
Nice.
So just keeping an eye on the pulse of esports in the Scholastic area across Canada. It's really good. Like I said, I feel like the Alberta subcommittee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're heavily. Ooh, how dare you? We're heavily influenced by the work that's done in Manitoba and Ontario.
And so those get one of those guys on.
Yeah. Nathan Coblin is the chair of Esports Canada EDU.
Yeah.
And I really hope I got his name right. I play Rocket League with him constantly. Anyways, he is the chair for that.
Okay.
And he also helps with or may run Manitoba as well. So he would be a good person to talk to both of those.
Nice.
So he's very hands-on. He was at the Alberta Esports Championship checking things out. So I feel like it's one of those, like I said, one of those spaces where you get to hear, okay, Ontario's doing this. How can it be done here in Alberta, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of maybe not jealousy, a little bit of the like envy of what they're doing, or kind of like, well, if they're doing it, we could do it. Taking some of their assets. Yeah. Maybe
does it work? Is it the right fit?
Maybe the rule book for our Alberta Rocket League tournament. Yeah. Maybe some of that was lifted with permission from the Esports Canada one, because then we can align with them. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And because I don't have to do everything from scratch at that point. Right.
Right.
So lots of collaborative space there, and lots of they're doing this, let's do it.
Yeah.
So and like honestly, I believe Manitoba and Ontario were the first people to have an association. And then in the last couple of years, Saskatchewan now, Alberta, other people are doing it because we're like, this is what needs to happen. You can see the successes of what they're doing. Yeah. And then, you can bring it to Alberta.
Definitely seems to be functioning differently in each province,
A little bit. Yeah. And some of them focus on different titles. Some of them, if our Alberta Esports Championship, and I'm not saying that this is the case, if it ends up being more of a competitive space rather than a open. Maybe that's a little bit different in Alberta than it is in Ontario or in, everyone has their own flavor, their own way of doing things, and maybe you can learn from, their successes, how they evolve. If Ontario's 5 years down the road of their Scholastic Esports League and we're, 1 year in, they might have some lessons for us and be like, you know, this, we thought this is the way to go, but this isn't working out. This is why we changed this. And so it gives you a little bit of, you know, some hope that you can see these things going on. You can see all these things building, right? And there's so many people that are so passionate about it, and they're making it happen, right? So
well, and even with this, you know, you have a Scholastic Esports League in Alberta. It feels like it's the essential foundation of creating something along the lines of like a Western Canada league, you know, like a WHL, you know, like a WHL for Scholastic Esports in the Western provinces, like prairies and all that.
Yeah.
And kind of curious because I don't know if I caught it all, but in terms of your role with Esports Canada and like kind of having your hand on the pulse of all these other associations that are kind of popping up and continuing to grow and evolve, you know, from, you know, BC to Manitoba, like and even throughout the Eastern Canada, what has your role kind of been primarily representing Alberta, and, you know, what's been sort of the positive conversations and feedback that, you know, you're hearing and knowing that you're in the right room with the right people. Yeah. They're all here, including yourself, for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So the role has generally been, you know, when we have our meetings, we'll have you know, a discussion of what's going on in our provinces. You know, things that may have happened, things that you know, initiatives that are starting, you know, after something happens, like a tournament or whatever, they can have a conversation. This is where we had some issues. This is where we needed support. Hey, when you guys are running your tournament in March, just keep an eye out for this. You know, specifically examples have been like at Lethbridge, there was an issue with logging into the Epic servers.
Right.
Because there was
Jesse mentioned
all the IP address. It all came as one IP address, so they think they were getting flooded, right? So people that have run those tournaments before, or now it's like, hey, when you do that, you got to go through Epic and let them know that this is happening, or you have to have something that's providing extra IP addresses so this doesn't happen, right? So examples like that, you know, help save, you know, maybe an hour of panic or a couple hours of panic at a tournament, or some of the, you know, some of the brackets being shortened or something like that, right? So that space, you know, is really helpful as well. It's also, you know, you can reach out to the guy from Ontario who's running the Valorant for Ontario, and you can be like, hey, we're running a tournament right now. You know, we're thinking of running it like this. How did you guys do it? Like, it's really important to be able to have someone else helping you out instead of just walking out into the blizzard. You know, somebody's been there before and they got a rope for you. They let you know, they can guide what's going on, right? So it's super important. You know, they're always looking for, you know, how are we going to expand esports in Canada? One of the major things for me has been, I come from a traditional sports background.
Right.
So, you know, baseball, hockey, and things like that. I've coached those sports, and you know, I'm working at my academy. I was more involved with the traditional sports during that. So there's certain things I'd like to take from traditional sports, and one of the things is like coach certifications and coach resources. And so there's talk with the Esports Canada for sure about that as well, and through the subcommittee, the Alberta Esports Association subcommittee, we're running an event here in January. January 29th in Red Deer for in collaboration with Alberta Tech Leaders in Education, which is ATLE.
Okay.
So this is probably the time where like the ATLE website goes down here. There it goes. And so that's one thing that I'm really passionate about, is taking the coach certifications from traditional sports and having that in Alberta, right? So that event that we're collaborating with ATLE on is going to be like a coach's clinic all day in Red Deer on January 29th. And it's going to be, you know, the first half of the day, the plan is that it's going to be more like, how do I start my esport program? More general coaching, you know, how to handle an esports athlete, how to handle communication between esports athletes and things like that, right? Very general.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, we're actually going to have coaching clinics for specific games. So once again, super passionate about that. I want to be able to set the foundation so that if there's people there that are running esport clubs, classes, things like that, sometimes people are given the go ahead or like, hey, can you run an esports, club at our school here?
Yeah.
And maybe given assets like hardware and things like that, but they might not be experts in the game that they might be
Right.
teaching. So the idea is that maybe we can set the foundation of this is how you start the beginning of Rocket League. So I might be running the coach clinic for Rocket League.
Right.
And I just want to compare it to like, there's a thing called Coach One in hockey. So in Coach One in hockey, it's like, this is how you teach them how to skate. Here are some drills and all that kind of stuff.
Having those different workshops for both coaches, players, and just learn about all those different facets.
Yeah, so at that event, we should have specific games, Rocket League, Valorant, I believe Smash,
Nice.
and it may not be on the website yet, exactly all the games that we'll be teaching, but there will be like a foundational coaching course for each one of those games, which like I said, super passionate about it.
Yeah.
Very, I think it's incredibly valuable. And really one of the things that makes me excited about it is to think all these people, because I hear it all the time. I get like 40, 50 emails a year from people that are like, I'm starting a club. How do I get it started? Right. Because just the emails out there that I run this academy and I'm, you know what I mean? So I get emails about, how should I be running it? Or I've got all this stuff. What game should I choose? All that. So that event would be great for that.
Yeah.
And, it's also,
Nice.
how do I even run a practice for Rocket League? How do I do a video review? Things like that. So the thought of everyone kind of getting on the same page in Alberta that like, this is how we teach the foundations of Rocket League.
Right.
That's very exciting for me. So
I want to dive a little more into that because obviously it's in that academic environment. So is there a lot of teaching from scratch, really breaking down the fundamentals from the coaching aspect to the the hosting aspect, from whether it's anyone in academia, whether it be staff or dedicated coaches that are trying out esports specifically outside of maybe another traditional sport that they focus on? Like, is it? I'm imagining the learning curve is maybe different for many, because there's a little more to it than just running a football practice.
Yeah. So are you saying, is there a lot of coaching that needs to go on for the coaches?
Yeah. Like, is there a lot of, because you talk about putting on those workshops for how to coach the students, and maybe a little more advice on how to put on a tournament. Like, is it often, is this kind of the beginnings of creating dedicated streams of workshops on an annual basis to empower anyone in the Scholastic ecosystem?
That's definitely the hope.
Yeah.
That this starts that. Yeah. For sure. And I've been pushing for it since I started my program. Because honestly, when I started my program, yes, of course I was very familiar with the games that we're running, but did I know every little detail? I still don't know every little detail, but the amount that I didn't know about the game was quite a bit, right? And that is someone who's coming in with a relative amount of knowledge. Yeah. And I felt a little bit like, where do I find the resources? What do I do? So in the 3 years that I've been doing this, which isn't that long of time, I still have built up a base of knowledge, especially about Rocket League, right? Yeah. So I know that there's people out there that are like, yes, I'm going to run Rocket League with my group, and I've played it for a couple hours. You know what I mean? They have very, they could use those resources for sure. Yeah. And hopefully we get to the point where we can have like right now you can get esport coach certifications, but you have to go outside of Canada. From what I understand, please, if somebody knows where to get it within Canada, let me know, because my esport for certification had to be done through a company through the States, right? We'd like to have something like that in Canada for sure, and maybe we start getting to the point where it's, you have a Rocket League Coach 1 certification, so that somebody is somebody is prepared to run practices, that know the basics of the game, and you can be sure of that because they have this nice little piece of paper that says Coach 1 Rocket League certified, right? I do think we'll take it back to the very first question that you asked me about, and my answer to it. We add legitimacy to esports, right? Having coaches with certifications, having workshops, having people who are on the same page that aren't all making it up, not all making it up as they go, because a lot of people have a lot of training and expertise or whatever, but having more people with more expertise adds legitimacy to esports, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the goal of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the event at excuse me, the event at the end of January, the acronym threw me off, so I forget the name.
Alberta Tech Leaders in Education?
Yes, yeah. So with the event at the end of the month, is this something that, correct me if I'm wrong, is this something that, you know, you're hoping to kind of do every year to kind of provide those resources, or is it going to be kind of that mix of, here's some things that we'll be doing in person, here's some things you can get online that the subcommittees page can host, whether it's like PDFs or tutorials and stuff like that? Like, what's kind of the idea in terms of, you know, the resources piece, so that it's accessible for all, anytime kind of thing?
Yeah. So the hope is that this isn't the last one.
Okay.
I haven't, that hasn't been confirmed or anything like that. This is the first one that we're doing.
Right.
I'm really hoping that everyone sees it as a success and it becomes something that we do at least annually, and build upon that for sure. There has been talk of, recording or having PDFs or things like that of these some of these resources, so that people can access them for sure, just to make it open for people as well. But yeah, like I said, I hope that it becomes a bigger thing and that we expand on it. I hope that I run a Rocket League one and we run a Valorant one, and somebody in the crowd or somebody that sends feedback in is like, I want an Overwatch one, and we have the assets to build that for the next one or whatever, right? So just like esports is such a wide breadth of things, right? So I always bring things back to hockey, because that's just that's where we live in Alberta.
It's how I relate to everything, I feel.
But it's like, hockey coaches, there are specialized coaches, there's skills coaches, there's goaltending coaches, there's things like that, right? But they're still working within one sport, Right. So, Hockey Alberta works with the one sport, and they have to do that. Whereas, Alberta Esports, Alberta Scholastic Esports League, we're working with multiple different sports within our sport, right?
Right.
So it does get to be quite a rat's nest to deal with sometimes, but we want to be able to at least have the foundations of the games that are being played in our province scholastically, right? So I'm really hopeful for this event. From what I understand, the registration is already quite big, which is a good signal for sure. And I'm just hopeful that we're able to do this a little bit more. Just want to make sure we have resources for coaches, right?
Totally.
Because like I said, I felt that when I started, right? That it was, where do I even find this? And it's just like a lot of general stuff a lot of the times, when it's like, an esports athlete needs to be coached like this. But I'm like, oh, can you teach me how to teach half flips in Rocket League? Can you teach me how to do aerials, so that I can teach me how to teach, aerials, things like that? I want to know how to instruct the actual mechanics, or how to instruct the strategy and things like that. Were a little more difficult to find. Whereas when you go to a baseball certification, which is something that I've done, they're like, all right, this is how you teach how to do ground balls, and this is how you teach how they should hold the bat and things like that. It's like, we need those granular things so the coaches know how to coach it. So then when the kids are getting to high school or moving on to collegiate, that they've already been taught those basic skills, and they've been actually taught them right, and not one style of 100 different styles of whatever coach they happen to end up with, right?
I've always been curious, because it actually just popped into my mind.
Okay.
When any of the games go through any massive updates or anything, how catastrophic can it become?
So the funny thing,
I'm so curious.
Yes. The funny thing is, I never thought I'd have a job where patches ruin my day. So there's been multiple times, I'm not going to say ruin my day, but I had a plan for the day. Today we're working in Valorant, we're working on, we're going to go in teams of 2, and we're working on like a buddy system style of play, right? So doing trades and things like that in Valorant. And then we get into class and everyone goes to turn on their computers and get into Valorant, and it's down. You know what I mean? Because they're doing like their updates. What are they? Maintenance. They're doing maintenance or whatever, right? So then it's like, okay, well now we got to adjust to things, right?
Yeah.
As far as the content itself, we use it as learning opportunities. So we'll tell the kids, okay, patch notes are out. You know, what does this mean for you? You know, kid A, you've generally been a jet player. Well, they just nerfed this. What are you going to do? Does that mean you're like, did they nerf her into the ground? Do you have to switch to raise?
Right.
You need to be able to adjust to those sorts of things. You know, for Rocket League, generally because it's an older game.
Yeah.
The core of the game stays a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think specifically of Rocket League recently introduced the ability to see your teammates' amount of boost that they have, which is important. So that one felt like a big shift in the game, but it was less like when they go to play that day, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
It's more like, okay, how are we going to adjust to this when we have our next competition?
Right.
When we're going to play a few games throughout, you know, it didn't happen the day before a competition.
I was going to ask actually, like, has there been a case where a patch happens maybe on a different game than Rocket League that could really alter people? Like if something got, you know, nuked or something.
Or a new character
or something, like right before a big competition that you guys got scheduled.
Yeah.
You know, a little more thinking on the fly, you know, probably.
A lot of times when that happens, I can think of a specific example in Valorant. So we were in a league through another provider. And when we ran that league, what is her name? I'm going to forget her name. There's a character who came out.
Okay.
And she wasn't approved for competition yet. So even though when we played in those private matches or whatever, when you set up the games, you set up private matches.
Yeah.
Even though that character was available, we weren't allowed to play her. So that is one way that the leagues kind of deal with that. And it's actually a really good thing for the Alberta Scholastic Esports League to remember that this is like a standard that has been set. Sometimes that if they're not allowed at pro level competition yet, then they won't be allowed at the other level. So then you just tell all the teams that they can't use that player, right? Okay. So if it's really game breaking, like an agent that is is overpowered or anything like that, then usually there'll be something in the rules that'll say, hey, you can't use that yet. And then once they make the adjustment, it'll be fine. There's also a new character that just came out in Overwatch, right? And so they will, when they go into competitive modes, that player isn't, or that hero isn't available. Yeah. And then so when they would go into their private matches in their games, I would say that the rules would say that player isn't available yet. So the companies themselves and the leagues themselves kind of handle that. I can't think of an example besides, hey, you're not allowed to use this agent. Yeah. That has really affected anything. Because most of the core of these games are set to be in competitive balance. Right. So yes, an agent can throw that off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No. I think that's it for me, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
Not sure. Was there anything else you wanted to toss in here before we go? Anything?
Well, if this comes out before January 16th, if anyone is interested in the Vimy open house, it's on the vimyridge.epsb.ca website. Okay. If they want to come to that open house, I would love to talk in person about esports. Love it. This was an enjoyable experience, so I can imagine, speaking to the people that show up at the open house would be enjoyable as well. So if anyone wants to come to that would be great.
I'll link that link in the show notes.
Thank you very much. And then definitely for any teachers or people running Scholastic esports events, the January 29th AESA and ATLE collaboration, or ASL and ATLE collaboration for the coaching clinic. That would be on the ATLE website if people want to do that. And then, on the AESA website, there's
Yep.
a section for the subcommittee, and it has a calendar of events. So,
Right.
the local Smash tournaments are coming up at the end of February, and then the Rocket League and Valorant leagues start up in March, I believe, and then we're good to go. So
Sweet.
I had you were expecting the person to be like, oh no, we're good, but I had like 4 or 5 bugs there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you sure there's not one more?
Yeah.
In your case, you checked off all the boxes, so I appreciate
Awesome.
that.
And
Yeah,
then
no.
I'll finish beating you at Mario Kart off camera, if that's okay.
I mean, okay. Your
I don't
controller
even know.
died.
Oh yeah, game over, game over.
Game over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for what's next in 2025, Travis. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm not sure if depending on what host city it is,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not Edmonton, I don't think I'll be able to make it out to the Alberta Esports Championship this year.
I'm not telling you where.
It's fine. It's fine. Please be Edmonton
Yeah.
one day. Please be one day.
One day, maybe.
1 year. 1 year.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll see it come to Edmonton even at one point. But
Yeah.
I believe though the Alberta Game Series, not sure if you've heard of that one. It's hosted by Digital Alberta. It's back in Edmonton this fall.
Nice.
Showcasing more on the game development side and indie developers specifically. But I'm really hoping there's maybe a bit of a fun esports twist, but you never know. Might be an opportunity for the
Nice.
Scholastic League. But yeah, so definitely I plan to head out to that. Probably my first big event post-wedding.
Oh.
That big days in September.
Congrats.
I'm scared. Thank you. Finances.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you at AGS, but if not, no big deal. It's in Edmonton, so it's on our home turf.
You'll probably see me.
Home advantage.
Yeah.
But until then, thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Good conversation, good game. You did win. I did try. I kind of.
Well, off camera, I'll show you a couple.
Okay. Find out more about the academic subcommittee and the Scholastic Esports League at esportsalberta.ca. For the inaugural recap on the Alberta Esports Championship, you can go to AEC2024.ca. And of course, for all the latest episodes of the show and community resources, you can catch them all at goodgameyeg.ca. And if you enjoyed my conversation with Travis, feel free to share it with your networks, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Stellarcast out.